One of the things that really heartens me about the food and grocery industry is the seriousness with which it takes its responsibility around sustainability. So, the industry is driving hard to address climate change as well as food waste, as well as packaging. So, there is an enormous amount of work that is going on. And when I talk to CEOs in industry, invariably, sustainability is the number one issue on the CEO's mind. And that's coming from the perspective of it is the right thing to do for business, it is the right thing to do for the planet, and it is the right thing to do for our community. The food and grocery production system is intrinsically linked to a healthy planet. It's really important for food and grocery manufacturers, therefore, that we're playing our role by adopting a range of sustainability measures, including reducing emissions. And reducing emissions can happen in a number of ways. One of those is by adopting more energy efficient technologies, so refrigeration or cooling systems or ovens that are more energy efficient, using alternate sources of energy such as solar, but then also looking at the way that the food is produced and reducing the amount of food waste because that has a big impact on emissions, as well as looking at packaging and how we can actually use different types of packaging that are less emissions intensive. And then another area for the industry is looking at how we can optimise the transport network so that we can make sure that there are fewer kilometres being travelled by trucks with all of those great products around the country. One of the challenges for the industry in measuring our emissions footprint is determining the level of Scope 3 or the supply chain emissions. So for years, businesses have been able to measure their direct emissions in their production, their Scope 2 emissions, which is their source of energy. But now we're looking at the whole supply chain so that if you make a litre of milk, then what are the emissions embedded in that milk that also come from the cow and from the farm production systems? So that means we need to work collectively across the whole agricultural sector as well as with the supermarket retailers so that the supply chain has one consistent way of being able to measure and report on these whole of supply chain emissions. Sustainability is something that no one business can tackle. We need to do it as an industry collectively, but we also need to work with our trading partners. So the supermarkets are really important in this because they're engaging with consumers every day, and the consumers are the ones who are leading a lot of this change. We also need to be engaging and working with governments because they hold many policy and regulatory levers that can be an important part of helping the industry to move towards a more sustainable future. The food and grocery industry is looking at circular economy from a number of different perspectives. One is the packaging and how we can turn a piece of packaging back into recycled packaging. But there's also a lot of work going on in circularity in the food production system as well, so that when manufacturers are making a food product, how do we make sure we're capturing the food waste from that and turning that back into some useful resource? Now, historically, that might have gone into animal feed, for example, but we're now looking at how we can actually increase the value and create higher value products which will help to create that circularity.